so what I love just really quickly about storage is like, especially with millennials right now, is, having a website and having a good tech stack is an advantage. And if you don't have it, you're behind. So look at all these facilities in your area that have no website. There's really nice facilities right here that have no website and are still making fantastic money. So this is the advantage right here, is buying, one of these mom and pops and then adding your tech stack and adding, a couple of items to increase revenue.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of REI SmartTalk. I'm Scott Snofke, Senior Direct Marketing Coach here at REIPrintMail. I brought today a very special guest in the house, Storage School, the queen of storage herself, a good friend of mine. Bree Hartman is going to teach us today everything storage, how to find them, how to finance them, all of the fun stuff, how to make them work more efficiently, all of that good stuff. So, hey, Bree, thanks for joining us today. How are you?
Good. This is going to be awesome. Thank you so much. This is I've been looking forward to having a podcast with you and just kind of talking about what your world is, and even with self-storage.
Yeah, not as much as I'm looking forward to it, because, I think self-storage is one of the hidden little cash cows that are out there that you can really cash flow if you do it right and find them at the right price. And I'm looking forward to learning today from you to see if I could possibly find one of these myself here in the Midwest.
Let's make it happen. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. So getting into it, kind of what got you into storage, what led you into that and made you so proficient in it?
Hands down. So I always like to say that I've had 9 lives, because I feel like I have at this age. But I was a W-2. So I worked for Fish and Wildlife for 7 years. Doing big game. And that really led me down to, opening up my gym, which is kind of crazy. So you are a W-2 employee, and then you're like, okay, so this was not working. In a cubicle, I'm going to go open up a gym. And I ran that for 5 years, all through COVID. And you really figure out like how not to own a business, which is you do it all yourself, like busy work. And so that when I got pregnant with my baby girl, I had one accidental rental. And I really thought, that was going to be my, big vehicle was, hey, go buy 20 houses. And then I learned about, you have toilets, service dogs, and, 2 a.m., water heaters that break. So that really kind of was like, okay, an eye opener for me, especially being in California. So I heard on a podcast and they said like no toilets, no tenants, no employees, like less problems. And I was like, I want to buy storage. Like that was my one thing in like 2021. When I got pregnant, and the joke in the family was, hey, are you going to buy the facility first, or is the baby going to come first? So it was kind of like a race, between. And so 6 weeks actually after giving birth, we bought our first facility in Louisiana out of all the places. It was a $3.1 million facility, and it was all the way across the U.S. on an SBA loan, so when the numbers work, it works. Right. And that kind of started off to the races. And now we own over 100,000 square feet of storage. And the goal is to buy, 12 to 15 of these facilities in the next 3 years.
That is awesome. I mean, because, the beauty of investment is it's all math. So if the math, it doesn't really matter where it's at, as long as you can figure out, the logistics of it, of being there or being able to. And with storage, I mean, a lot of that stuff is turning into where you can do it, without being there. It's almost like a kiosk. So that's the cool. The technology is coming along. You almost don't even need employees.
We don't. Like all of our facilities that we run are all remotely managed. And then we actually, have an office that we just rented out for $1,000 a month. And so it's wild because all of ours are remotely managed, and that just renting out that one office for $1,000 actually added $120,000 of equity of additional revenue, and equity to our facility. So that's awesome. That's a big advantage. Absolutely.
So in today's conversation, or in today's society, how easy is it to find these, and what's your typical targeted practice of to find, locate, and, vet, or underwrite these properties?
Hands down. So this is something that, I think being good at finding deals, like we talk about this all the time, even in self-storage school, it's like, okay, if we can get really good at being a deal finder and a hunter, you can find those deals, put down a little to none of your own money and go partner with those bigger players. And so definitely self-storage is, I think it's an interesting part to it because you've got multifamily, which I know you talk a lot about, and that's around 10 to 12% is still mom and pop versus I think the opportunity on the table is with self storage is we've got about 73% that are still mom and pop owners. And
Right.
these are, people that are ready to, move on with their life. They own it outright. They have no websites. They have a cash box and are really just unsophisticated storage operators, right?
Right.
So those are the facilities that we like to purchase. And so I always tell my storage school students, it's like, we want to be looking on these outskirts of growth. And so a lot of people are like, well, I see a facility all over the place where I live. And I'm like, okay, great. You live in a first or second tier market with big REITs such as Public Storage and CubeSmart. Like we don't want to play with those bigger players. We want to play on these outskirts, right?
Right.
So I tell my students to look at, a population size of, anywhere between 5,000 people to about 150,000 is a really nice sweet spot for these mom and pop owners. And then we like to go out there and target them by cold calling, direct mailers. We also do a lot of driving for dollars. So very typical from residential, but I'd love to show you guys, like, I don't know if
Yeah.
you're open for me to showing you kind of like how we spot these facilities. Cause it is if you're not in this industry, people are like, how are you guys finding this data? How are you talking to owners and like actually buying these small mom and pop
Yeah,
facilities?
feel free to share your screen because I mean we're going to have this on YouTube. Plus, everybody as you come across this, like, follow, and share if you see something you're enjoying as she's sharing her screen. But the beauty of this is a lot of this stuff can be found online. You don't have to spend a lot of time with sweat equity to go and locate these properties. And there's some telltale signs of, either through Google Street View and things like that to be able to go and look at, the size, the expandability of the property. Maybe they don't have it all built out, things like that, that you can sit and start to analyze where you could be, where you could get the value add to this property to where it's even worth even more, and get instant equity in some of these negotiations.
Absolutely, hands down. And so this would be really fun. So if you guys
Mhm.
are listening, I will definitely give you a step by step. But if you're watching on YouTube, this is definitely something that a lot of people don't know about, even like brokers. But how you can kind of spot these mom and pop is we go to the Googles, like this is free, but this is the start, right? And then you have to dive deeper and kind of go further with this. But I like going to the Google Maps, and then what I'm going to do is I've been looking at Sullivan, Missouri. I'll show you why
My
I think it's a
backyard.
is it okay? You're right
Yeah.
there. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
decent.
we're right
That's
up
so funny.
44. My father-in-law lives just south
Okay.
of Sullivan right there, or right off of 185.
So wait, check this out. You're gonna be so excited about this.
Mhm.
So what you guys do is you click nearby, and once you click nearby, you actually write in self storage, and the Googles you can write in whatever you want. If it's multifamily, RV parks, laundromats, whatever you need. And what happens is you've got the Google Map pack that pops up. So all these little red dots are storage facilities, right? And as a storage owner operator, how we advertise now, especially in 2026, is everything's online, right? Like most things are online and on Google Maps. Some of them are not, but the majority are. But what we're going to be interested in right here is being able to, number one, spot a storage facility that has no website. So that's a huge, big key indicator that it is mom and pop. And then the second key indicator that we like to look for is we like to look at the Google stars
Mhm.
reviews. And so if the reviews are four stars or less, that could indicate that it is an unsophisticated storage owner, right? So that might not be doing good customer service, that
Mhm.
might live in a different state. And so that is a opportunity on the table. And then anything less than 15 reviews can also indicate that they're not using their marketing right to
Right.
their full advantage to pop up as like number one to get called. And so what I love just really quickly about storage is like especially with millennials right now is having a website and having a good tech stack is an advantage. And if you don't have it, you're behind. So it's wild. So this market, which is right by where you live, so look at right here, no website, which
Right.
is wild. If you scroll down, so more no websites. And I want to show you. So if you click on this, it's a beautiful facility on your Highway 44. You zoom in, beautiful frontage. Like banks love storage facilities that are right there close to highways for easy marketing. But like this owner probably owns it, has been owning it for like 12 years. doesn't have a website, is probably full. And that's why he's like, I don't need a website. But you can only imagine, right? Like if you can only rent and by calling someone, like that's an advantage. So I'm going to take my little man, I'm going to drop him right in front just so that you guys can see him, this facility. But like, would you buy this? Would you buy this today?
Yeah. Yeah. I
Right?
mean, it's especially there because
Nice.
it's not only about where that's at, it's also about what's around that. So that area
Mhm.
is really well known for its float trips and canoe and camping and stuff like that. So not only are you going to have potential, you could potentially easily grab the lot next to it, and or
Yeah.
in the space that's there, you can add RV, you can add boat storage, you can add stuff like that. That's going to be super simple. But there's a lot of campsites that are down in there that people don't want to pull their RV all the way up, but it costs too much to leave their RV there at the thing. So it's not only just about this particular unit, it's also about what's around that unit. It could grow the potential or double the potential very fast.
Exactly. And so
Mhm.
like even just looking at it, if you go online, like this has a billboard. So I bet you it has a billboard revenue. It looks like it's got a little bit of climate controlled, some industrial flex, and then it has just regular drive up right here with a fence. And anyone can call this owner and see if you'd be open to selling. And kind of how I know, your listeners, we do a lot of cold calling and mailers. And so what I do is normally just say, hey, hi, is this the storage facility at XYZ Main Street? Oh, yes. And I say, hey, well, I've just been looking. I know this call is out of the blue. And I really like that you guys are located on Highway 44. I just wanted to see if you would ever consider an offer on your storage facility. And then silence, right? Let them talk.
Right.
And so that and maybe they've been thinking about it, but I just did cold calling for 2 hours with my storage school students. And you want to hit them at the right point in time where they've been thinking about it for the past six
Right.
months, but they're going to say, actually, hey, I have been considering an offer. And we had like 6 people say yes to wanting an offer last week during office hours. And that's just the start of the conversation. Then you
Yeah.
build that relationship and get to learn more about that facility and present them an offer and see if you guys can buy and close it. But that's the, I think, opportunity on the table. And I think the biggest part is people are so nervous, right? Just to call businesses. And it is a very simple call. And even though they might say no to you right then, I normally, what I'd like to do is like, well, hey, just wanted to see like, how did you buy this facility? Right? Like, tell me a little bit more. Like, where are you at with occupancy? And so now you get to hear their story. And so now you're bonded, right, with
Right.
them. And baby boomers, right, who are good people that like to talk on the phone versus millennials and all these Gen X's that now don't like the texting. They want to talk to you. They want to help because they now, they were probably you in the back, position about 20 years ago. So,
And let me add
yeah,
something to that right there is it's funny that you say that, the boomers and Generation X and that we love to talk on the phone. We
right.
love to because that's how we grew up. We didn't have the internet and the keyboard warriors and stuff like that to where we went and physically talked to somebody. But as we've grown and scaled, those are the same people that don't have websites
Yeah.
but we'll physically have a conversation. But as we have turnover and the boomers are starting to retire and they want to move away from things, as millennials come in, the websites are key because
Huge.
they just don't like talking to people. So if they're
Yeah.
looking for storage, they're looking for simplicity and they're looking for those things that are they're going to go into. And my wife being one of them, and she's rather if she could go a month without talking to anybody, she'd be happy.
Right.
And so you all you're doing is bringing the facility from what grew it to what it is, but you're bringing it into what is now where they can come sign up for it for free. They can grab that
Mhm.
storage without talking to somebody, and it's bringing it into a new demographic of people that are more interested in going in that direction.
Absolutely. And I want to, touch on a couple pieces of that because that brought up some good ideas. But I just to put a nice bow on this, like look at all these facilities in your
Mhm.
area that have no website. So I just wanted to show you, like, look at this. Back in the day when you wanted to be AAA storage, because they would
Mhm.
line up on like the yellow pages,
Yep.
this is quadruple A. But like nice facilities, like there's
Right.
really nice facilities right here that have no website, and are still making fantastic money, right? So
Mhm.
this is the advantage right here is buying, one of these mom and pops and then adding your tech stack and adding, a couple of items to increase revenue. And, you can buy a facility for, right, maybe 500,000 and bring up the value to 1.2 million within 3 years,
Right.
right, for the cash flow and for that. So I just wanted to show you, right, like this market is actually a great market. So you should call this market Sullivan, Missouri. So I just wanted to show your listeners just like how you guys can do this, and how you can start finding these facilities, because it's not as hard as I think people think. And it's just knowing, the right steps, right? It's the right steps. And then and then how much is it, to how do you evaluate it, right? And what's the
Yeah.
purchase price?
And that's
So,
and that's the fun part about this is you don't necessarily have to get into this with a ton of money.
no.
And it doesn't you can come in and also, which is my leading into my next question is that you can find these that are owner finance too, and utilize the fact that they're not taking very well care of it, or they're not bringing it up to efficiency as it could be in today's market with today's technology. And they don't want to make that, or they're scared of the technology, or they just don't want to be bothered by it because they're comfortable where they're at. But if you do those upgrades, all of a sudden now it's more efficient, therefore the revenue is going to be worth more. But in that same, you're able to potentially offer more, and then go
Yeah.
into like into owner finance, to where you do a balloon payment of this much, and over this amount of time, and then look, by that time, then you can refinance it and pull equity out in 5 years or 10 years, whatever you can negotiate into. So as we get into that next step, what is your favorite way, and then what are some other ways after that of finding financing for these or buying these properties?
Yeah, no, such a good question. So we actually we're working this deal right now, but I'll just give you an example of it. So it's in Arizona, like a good decent market in Arizona, and cold called. I cold called the owner. The owner actually he owned like a welding shop next door. Bought this facility 7 years ago for his wife, right? Where I'm like, oh my god, that's amazing. I want a facility. And so she was running the business while he did items. They had kids. They have 3 kids now, that are now all in sports. She is not loving the storage business anymore. And so she really had started to neglect like taking calls and getting tenants in. So this owner, when I, started talking with him, he's like, hey, well, I own it outright. And so we were able to present to him it was a $1.7 million offer with seller financing. And so it was 15% down, with a 5% interest with a 10-year balloon. And so that was something where, we're still in the negotiation talks to this, but what is great about this is that this storage facility, beautiful facility with some expansion, and they were only making like $10,000 gross a month. And it didn't all add up,
Right.
and so I had to go further, right? You're starting like, okay, well, you should be making like 18,000 gross a
Right.
month. And so the two things that were the value on the table here was that they weren't doing collections. So they were friends with their whole community. They were giving
Mm,
people discounts and not
right.
collecting when they didn't pay. And so it was severely mismanaged, as well as 20% below market rates. And so buying this facility with seller financing, being able to cash flow, decreasing your risk. And we were able, our plan, right, is within 3 years to bring it up from 10,000 gross a month to 18,000. And that would be worth a $2.2 million storage facility. Sorry, what, 2.8 million dollar storage
Yeah.
facility at like a 7 cap.
And
And
that
so I just wanted to share with you guys, the being able to find the value on the table and then do seller financing. And it's a big plus because it helps you, right, cash flow more, decrease your risk. And then it also, you give them money every single month and they
right.
love that. Yeah. So
And
hands
that's
down.
the thing is most people don't understand is the simplicity of this is, it's like, it's simple math. You just get in there and
Mhm.
it's like, if it does this, this, and this, it equals that. And
Yep.
that's the negotiation tool. It's, yeah, you can get really into the weeds and get way over creative. But all
Yep.
that does is complicate things. And usually those end up, burning out or turn people off. If you come just straightforward and say, hey, this is where the market says this is what you should be doing, and this is what we should be getting out of it. I think we can get there pretty easily if you let
Yep.
me run it for a couple years. Then I can get you your number. But if we don't and we buy it, then we have to buy it off of what you're physically doing right now, and that number is this number. So, it's a great negotiation tool to let you get in there and prove concept. And then, it's getting into the something that you're really good at compared to what, somebody else's thinks they're really good at, or like, hey, I'd like to do that. And then they don't really do very well at it is a great value buy because they're kind of
Mhm.
tired of it. They don't want to do it. They want to get rid of it. And then you can step in there and clean it up and get that value add as you do it and show them how to do it correctly. And oftentimes you're going to find a lot of facilities and a lot of multifamily and or single family stuff that is just poorly ran,
Absolutely.
and if you can clean up and make it more efficient, you can make, the equity up really quickly.
Hands down. And I just to like add to that, I think what's interesting, different than residential. So like residential, no matter how nice my marble kitchen is, my house is only going to appreciate based on the surrounding houses in the neighborhood, and kind of where the rents were when you purchased it. And with self storage, we are able to come in and purchase it from a mom and pop owner, and maybe not even need to do cosmetic,
Right.
increases with capital expenditure, but we can increase prices to market rate by 20% and add a website that people can use and automate to reduce your expenses. And that will actually not only help you cash flow, but double, right, your purchase price or value of it within 2 to 3 years. And so there's a huge, advantage when it comes to commercial real estate and self storage. And that's why we leverage bigger asset classes. It's
Mhm.
because you can force, value very fast versus in houses. It takes time. It's a 3, 5, 10 year game, depending on what kind of market, right, you are in. So just wanted to, I think, just share the difference. And it's so funny, especially, it's kind of a fun, controversial topic as AI, right, starts to
Mhm.
come into our industry. And we've been very bullish, we're trying out very, like, a lot of different AI products right now. But, self storage is a very simple business. We are in the business to rent space,
Mhm.
right? And so it is a, concrete floor, cinder block, building with a roll up door with no lights. So very, very simple with a low capital expenditure, low expense ratio, with a higher margin, right? And that's why people like self storage. But the simplicity of it, and kind of what I wanted to share with you guys with an operation standpoint, using like AI, like we have a call center, but we also are trying AI, so that the biggest thing in storage is when they call, you need to answer, right? Or they're
Right.
going to go on to the next. There is no brand, you know what I mean,
And that's
recognition.
with everything,
Anything.
because
Yeah,
they're looking to solve a problem. And if you don't
exactly.
answer and present a solution to their problem, they're going to continue to look to solve that problem. And,
Hmm.
I think with AI coming, I know we're kicking the tires on it with our live answer, during
Yep,
times that our live answer isn't answering live, off
exactly.
hours, that
Hmm.
we're going to have, we're talking about having an AI bot come in and handle that to create the solution instead of letting it to go to voicemail. Because at voicemail, still,
You're
once again,
missing.
not solving the problem.
Yep. And if you're calling these owners, like, you're gonna hear, like, especially if I did cold calling like for 5 minutes now, most people don't pick up, or they're closed right at
Right.
3 p.m., which is
Right.
so you've lost that sale. But how we're using AI, and I think just a kind of like a fun, fun topic right now, is being able to put AI right into our call center, so we understand what customers want from like a unit perspective. So that actually sends us information from an owner. So now we know how to
Hmm.
market better.
Yeah.
And then the second piece, which is kind of fun to hear, not fun for me as an owner operator, but we learned that we had in one of our facilities, we had someone living right in one
Right.
of our units, because the AI picked up on some of these comments like a call that was not, like, from a customer that wasn't happy, and that actually sent it a trigger
Right.
message to us to take care of it faster. So there's a lot of pros and cons, especially as an owner operator, as we still trial this out, because we are very much a business still, and we are making sure that we're giving customer service as an operator first,
Right.
as well as using AI to get more tenants in order to decrease expenses. Because the two best things as a business owner that we do every single month in storage is, we're like, how do we increase revenue, right? How do we add revenue streams or increase the revenue? And how do we decrease our expenses?
Right.
And this is going to be a huge impact